everybody, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting all 10 games of Game Week 8 predictions, which there are some huge games as you can see there, such as Liverpool versus Cole Palmer. Wait, no, Chelsea, sorry, easily mistaken. But just after I predict that game, I will be giving my goal of Game Week 7. Then after that, I'll show you how I did in Week 7 predictions to see how many points I actually got last week. We start off with the 12:30 PM kickoff. It's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's Tottenham Hotspur versus West Ham United. Huge London derby as Tottenham Hotspur bottled a 2-0 lead as they lost it 3-2 against Brighton and Hove Albion. The first half was immaculate. The second half, they dropped off. Tottenham thought they had the game in their hands, but they got catched out and they thought the game was over, but it was not. And the leaky defence returned in that game, and that was pretty poor. But they're facing West Ham, which, yes, did win 4-1 against Ipswich Town, which was a very good win and very good for Lopetegui, because in my opinion, Lopetegui has not got the defensive structure right this season, as multiple times defensively they have not looked good. And with Heung-min Son coming on the return, with West Ham not playing amazing other than the Ipswich game, yeah, I think Tottenham can definitely hurt West Ham's defence. And I know West Ham did win against Ipswich Town, but Tottenham Hotspur is a different kettle of fish. Because Ange Postecoglou, his style of football is amazing, and he was not impressed with the second half. If we get rid of how Tottenham played in the second half, and we focus on the first half, it looks really good. And Tottenham will 100% win this. I'm quite confident they will. I feel like they'll dominate against West Ham, but I feel like West Ham can capitalise on Spurs being absolute bottle jobs. So because of that, I will give West Ham 2 goals, but Tottenham will nick it at the end, making this 3-2 in a high-scoring affair between Tottenham and West Ham. We move over to the 3 PM kickoffs. It's at Portman Road. It's Ipswich Town versus Everton. And coming into this game, I feel like Everton are going to dominate this game with loads of shots and chances, because Ipswich Town in the last game, they lost at 4-1 against West Ham United, and that was a shocking defensive display by Ipswich Town, especially after a great performance against Aston Villa. As I just said, I do think Everton will dominate, after I think Everton is a better side, but Kieran McKenna's got the international break to think how to mitigate the problem that occurred in the West Ham game defensively, and he is a good enough manager that can solve that problem that happened in the West Ham game. And we have seen Ipswich defend very well this season. Like against Brighton, they defended superb, if you guys can remember that, when they drew it 0-0. And they holded off Liverpool defensively really well till half-time. So I feel like now after the international break, they can get their heads together, and now they're at home. I feel like they will be dominated by Everton, but it might be a similar game against Brighton. But because Everton are a worse side than Brighton, they'll be able to hold off and be very defensive against Everton, but then catch them out on the counter with the likes of Liam Delap, which scored again. He's gonna nick a goal, and they're gonna defend well this time round. And because Everton also defended really well against Newcastle United, I think it will be low scoring. I'm tempted to go 0-0 again for this Everton game, but because of Liam Delap, he's going to nick a goal, and Ipswich Town at home as well are going to win this 1-0 against Everton at Portman Road. We move over to Old Trafford. It's Manchester United versus Brentford, and Manchester United are in that game against Aston Villa. Not just Man United, also Aston Villa in the final third was really low quality. That was a low quality game, and it was boring. But Manchester United, they're facing a Brentford side which won at 5-3 against Wolves. Well done, Brentford. You can score very early on, and you managed to score 5. And I would not be surprised for a Brentford win or a draw in this one, because Brentford in the past, we know what's happened. They have battered Man United in the past. And especially Manchester United only being in 14th, which is crazy that this is a mid-table clash. I could definitely see a point. In my opinion, the best player for Manchester United has to be Andre Onana. He's going to save loads of shots from the likes of Brian Mbeumo and with the likes of Bruno Fernandes, which has been carrying Manchester United. I feel like we'll be able to get a goal and carry them to victory. But I would not be surprised for a Brentford draw, or even a Brentford win, as we've seen it before. But I'm going to have to go with Manchester United, especially as they're at home. Manchester United are going to get back on form, although I think it's going to be a very unconvincing win. I'm going 2-1 to the home side, Manchester United. Moving over to Craven Cottage, it's Fulham versus Aston Villa. And well, I don't see Aston Villa getting 3 points at the Craven Cottage, because Fulham, if Adama Traore could do everything he does, which is spectacular, and have end product and actually finish his beans, then they could have actually got a point against Manchester City. It wasn't bad from Fulham. It was a great display against Manchester City. They've started off really well. Aston Villa, you're not getting 3 points at Craven Cottage, especially how bad you were in the final third against Manchester United. But I feel like it's not going to be as bad in the final third again. And I feel like Aston Villa, it was an off game in the final third. They'll finally be able to get back on scoring form with plenty of options in the attack. So I feel like Aston Villa will score 2 goals. But like I said, Aston Villa, you haven't looked amazing in the last couple of games in the Premier League. You did win against Bayern Munich, but other than that, you haven't looked amazing. So I don't see you getting 3 points. I see Fulham holding off against Aston Villa. And honestly, I can't split the sides because both teams look very, very good. So I'm going to go down the middle for a Desmond 2-2 draw at Craven Cottage. We move over to St James's Park. It's Newcastle United versus Brighton and Hove Albion. And Newcastle United, we should have won that 2-3-0. If Anthony Gordon put away his penalty, then we would have definitely won that. We would have went on. But fair play to Everton's defence. But honestly, there were problems in the final third, you know. Harvey Barnes was a bit quiet, but I think it's just an off game because Everton was really good at defending. So I feel like if Harvey Barnes can get back on his great form that he had before the Everton game, and if Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson can return, and at least one of them actually play in this game, especially at home, that's all we need. We just need a striker, and it fixes the problem that we had against Everton. Other than those 2 games, Man City and Everton, we were not structurally sound. But against Man City and Everton, we were structurally sound. So if we can do all that, like I just said, and we're at home, yes, we can win this game. Brighton, fair play to you. You're definitely going to get a goal in this game because you did really well to get on the comeback and win that game against Tottenham. And I would not be surprised for a draw or even a Brighton win. But I feel like in recent time, Newcastle, when watching them, we look much more structurally sound than we have done. And considering we got a point against Man City, why not get 3 points against Brighton? I'm going for only just about a common scoreline, 2-1 to the home side, Newcastle United. We move over to the St Mary's. It's Southampton versus Leicester City. And Southampton did well to take the lead. But the problem is you didn't look well when you played Bournemouth. You got absolutely battered. And you still lost it against Arsenal despite taking the lead. And facing Ipswich Town, to be fair, they did play pretty well against Ipswich and they probably deserved 3 points. And they're facing a newly promoted side, Leicester. And at home, if you got a point against Ipswich, I think they can nick a point against Leicester. Because if they are going to get any points, because I feel like they will get at least 15 or 20 points this season, if they do want to get points, they're going to have to get it at home against a team like Leicester. Well done, Leicester, for getting your first 3 points and your first win. But if you are at home, Leicester, you will be winning this game. But because you're away against a Southampton side which is desperate, which is going to rest up throughout the international break, they're at home. They've proven they can play well against Ipswich. I think Southampton can get something. But I do not see Southampton getting 3 points because they still look terrible. But I feel like it'll be a very close game. I would not be surprised for a Leicester win. So I am going to go down the middle for a common 1-1 scoreline come the final whistle. We move over to the Vitality Stadium. It's AFC Bournemouth versus Arsenal. And you know what? Arsenal haven't got clean sheets for quite a while. They've been conceding quite a bit of goals. I mean, they conceded against Southampton of all teams. And they conceded 2 against Leicester as well. So they conceded 3 against 2 newly promoted sides. And especially at the Vitality Stadium, you would think Bournemouth will get a goal. But they didn't get any goals against Leicester. Although they nearly did from a Lewis Cook free kick. But it was offside. So at the end of it, they only scored 0 goals against Leicester. Sorry, Bournemouth. There is a high chance you will score considering a lot of teams have done against Arsenal. But I feel like Arsenal, that defence has to get another clean sheet, especially with David Raya in goal. So I am going to go Arsenal to return on a clean sheet. They are a better side than Bournemouth, as we all know. And I'm going for a 2-0 away win towards Arsenal come the final whistle. We move over to the Molineux Stadium. It's Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Manchester City. And Manchester City, they've been starting to find out. In the last 4 games in all competitions, they've only won 1. Just 1. And it could have easily been a draw against Fulham. But they're facing Wolves, and honestly, I had hope in Wolves. I said they'd win against Brentford 3-2. I mean, I said they'll score 3 goals, but I wasn't thinking they were going to concede 5 goals, because they did. That's shocking. That is honestly absolutely shocking. And they are not getting any points in this game. They are going to go 8 games without a win. They're going to be in last place. And they're going to lose this by a big margin. 4-1 to Manchester City as Wolves look awful. We move over to Anfield. It's Liverpool versus Chelsea. The game I mentioned at the start of the video. And it's not just Cole Palmer, which is fantastic. There are obviously other players in the attack, like Madueke, who actually got a goal against Nottingham Forest. Like Sanchez, which can I say Sanchez? What a great game. It wasn't just Sanchez, there was also Matt Sells in goal, which played really well. Sanchez and Matt Sells in that game, honestly, some great saves to keep it even at 1-1. Definitely if Chelsea want to hit top 4, I was thinking they were going to win that game by a couple of goals, but they didn't. They had loads and loads of chances. They could have easily won that game, but they didn't. Going against Liverpool, I felt like Liverpool are looking really good. Going into the international break, they can relax because they're doing really, really well. Yes, they only just about won at 1-0 against Crystal Palace. But to be honest, at times it looked like Liverpool could have won that game 2 or maybe even 3-0. So it was quite a dominant performance against Crystal Palace. And there's only been one blip up throughout the entire season, throughout the entire pre-season. And that was a loss against Nottingham Forest, which they soon patched up after they're getting wins in the Champions League. They're getting wins in the Premier League and their first place. And they haven't had this good of a start since 2020 when they won the actual Premier League. So sorry Chelsea, if you maybe had a bit more of a dominant win against Nottingham Forest rather than a draw, I would maybe say for you to get a point. But especially at Anfield, especially the way Liverpool have been playing, I'm going to go with the favourites, Liverpool, to win this 3-1 at Anfield as Liverpool face Chelsea. Moving over to Monday night, 8 PM at the City Ground. It's Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace. And Crystal Palace are in the bottom 3. And it could have been more than 1 goal in the Liverpool game. It could have been 2 or 3 against them. And they haven't had an amazing start. But facing Nottingham Forest, they've got the joint 3rd best defence, Nottingham Forest. So I see Nottingham Forest get a clean sheet. And I see Matt Sells, who I really underrated in my table predictions, to save loads of shots in this game from Crystal Palace. And I see the same with Dean Henderson because I think he is a great goalkeeper as well. So you know what, if there's going to be a 0-0, it's definitely going to be in this game because Crystal Palace have already experienced a 0-0. They've barely scored. Nottingham Forest have barely scored and they've got one of the best defence. So put the puzzles together and you will get 2 teams scoring none. So I'm going for a 0-0 draw between Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace at the City Ground. And my goal of Game Week 7 has to be Munez's goal against Man City. It was a great backheel volley by Raul Jimenez and a good finish by Munez. But how did I actually do in Week 7 predictions? Well, here they are. Here are the results. That's not right? 3 points. That's not correct. That's wrong. How can you get worse than 3? No, I'm sorry. Football's random. Toodle pip.